Hi everybody. I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about text editors and to show you how to download and install and use Visual Studio Code, which is a very powerful text editor that is perfectly suitable for our class. So I'm going to, in my browser here, go ahead and do a search for Visual Studio Code, see what comes up here. And this add one here is not something I want. I'm going to be looking for code.visualstudio.com. That's us. So I'll go ahead and click on that, and it'll suggest what operating system you're working with. I'm going to download that. It's going to take me to this little screen here, but you've chosen to open yes. I'm going to go ahead and save that file. So I'm going to download that. It'll go into my downloads there, and yeah, save that in the downloads. That's awesome. I'll go ahead and go into my downloads then from my Finder. I'm going to go to downloads and take a look and see what I downloaded. There it is, that zip file. Let me go ahead and double click to open that up. And it's going to expand that zip file and create a folder. Once I've got that folder, I'll click into that folder. And there's the Visual Studio Code app. I'm going to click drag that into my applications so that I'll be able to find that Visual Studio Code application in my applications. So I've got my desktop nice and clear so we can see what's going on. Let's do this again. And from the Finder, I'll go to my applications. There they are right there. And jump down at the bottom here to Visual Studio Code. So I'll double click to launch that. The first time it's going to ask you, okay, so did you download this from the internet and you want to open it? And so you can just say yes. And when it does that, it'll actually open you up in your web browser. It'll open you up to a little getting started with lots of information about how that works. You can take a look at that later on if you'd like. I'm actually just going to go in. Here's the welcome screen that we're using in the Visual Studio Code window itself. And this is where we begin. I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. I'm just going to jump straight in. We'll look at customizing this in just a moment. I'm going to create a new file here. Go up to File and New File, or Command N, either way. Click that to open that up, and I'll just start typing. This is my very first file in here. Yahoo. I'll go ahead and close this down here. So that's a text file. I'm going to save that someplace before I get too far here. So I'm going to say save. It's going to ask me where I want to save it and give it to me. On my computer, it's going to be lost here in the middle. So I'm actually going to save it on the desktop there. I'm going to create a new folder on the desktop, maybe called RW Code. So I'll create that, and you can see that folder got created right over there. And then I'll just call this my first file.txt. Oh, that's interesting. It didn't save it in the folder. Let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and close this window. I'll drag it in there. I want it to be in that folder. And let me go ahead then and open that up. So from within code here, I'm going to open. It'll ask me where I want to open things up. In RW Code is my first file, so I'll open that up. And you can see there it is, and now I'm working on that file. So cool. I can always go back and look at that welcome screen. That's nice there, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with this for the moment. So I've saved that in there. Let me do some copy pasting here. I'm going to take a look at customizing your editor a little bit. So I'm going to copy this line and then paste some more versions of that line here. Just pasted a bunch of versions in there. And unfortunately, I've made one very, very long line. Wordwrap isn't set up in this editor to begin with. And a lot of people like having a word wrap there so you don't have to scroll back and forth across the screen to find out what's going on with your line. So how do you make changes in the editor if you want to do that? So you can go up here to Code, Preferences, and then Settings. And when you look at the settings here, it's got a ton of settings, tons of ways that you can customize all this. It's very complex and powerful. We don't really want to mess around with that too much. I'm just going to say, do a search here for wrapping, and it says word wrap, controls how lines should wrap. That's exactly what I want. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to turn word wrap on. So if I close my settings now, you can take a look that long line is now wrapping the way I want it to. That's awesome. I also want to be able to work with Python programs or Java programs. So another thing that you want to be able to do is to go up here to your preferences and install some extensions. So one of the extensions that you want to install, I'll just do a search for Python here. We definitely want to do some sort of Python extension so we can use Python in here and have it do things like syntax highlighting. There's a ton of them listed, and I'm not even sure which one I should use. So I'm just going to click on one of these and see if it's a popular one or not. This one has lots of stars and 50 million downloads, and it's produced by Microsoft. This is probably the most legitimate. So I'm going to go ahead and click on install there. And you can see it'll take a moment to install it. And once it's done, it'll let you know that it's been installed. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to install the same thing for Java, just because if you're not using Java, you don't have to worry about it. But I'm going to do a search for Java and see if I can find something. Oh, that's funny. Couldn't connect to the extensions marketplace. Let me try again. That's funny. A little bit of an error there. Java. And here I've got Maven for Java, language support for Java. I'd probably have to do a little bit more research, but I don't know what Maven is, so I'm not gonna click on that. Let me take a look here. Oh, Red Hat. That's I really like Red Hat. They're very good. Lots of stars. 18 million. I'm totally downloading that. I think that's the one that I want to get. So if I don't like it later on, you can see it's installing right now. If I try it out and it doesn't work, turns out it doesn't work, I can click over here later on and I can choose uninstall. So cool. I've got a few things downloaded here. This little, I'm going to hit the escape key to try and shut this down because I really don't care about seeing all of this stuff now. Here's my file. This here is called the, I'm going to look at my appearance here. It's called the sidebar. So if I want to get rid of that sidebar, I'll just close that out. And now I'm back to working in my editor and I'm doing whatever it is that I want to be able to do. Very cool. Last thing I'll mention, some people like to change the color theme. You can see I've got white text on a black background here, but if you want to mess around with color themes, again, in your preferences here, very quickly you can go to color theme and you can find lots of different color themes here. Select one, or you can even do this. Let me go back to color theme and use the arrow keys to go up and down, and it'll dynamically change those color themes so that you can find one that you like. Take a look around. A lot of people like playing around with color themes. You can find additional color themes with install additional color themes. One of my favorites is Dracula. If you do a search for Dracula, there's Dracula official. I can go ahead and install that. And once I do that, I've got all those. Sure, I'll use the regular one there. I'll close that, and now I'm using the Dracula color theme there. So awesome little text editor, the Visual Studio Code. I recommend you install that, and good luck.